Let's be real, these questions look easy, at least until you go over your test results and realize the word there just cost you 20 points. Here's a two-step strategy to get you 100% on SAT pronoun questions. The first step when dealing with pronoun questions is to find the noun that the pronoun is replacing, and that's called the antecedent for all my fancy pants students out there. So that's going to be step one. On this question, for example, we've got our blank space. Many people don't know blank exists. If I go back to the sentence before, I see that Arcata is my antecedent. So that would be step one. Step two, just match the correct pronoun with that antecedent. So if my original noun is Arcata, I have to think, is Arcata singular or plural? It's singular, right? And is Arcata a person? So would I use he or she, or is Arcata not a person? It's not a person. So I'm going to use the singular pronoun it. And that's really it. That's the two-step process. But for some questions, it's going to get a little bit more complicated. It's not going to be quite as easy to find the antecedent per se. So let's do some example problems so that you can actually practice this process. Let's start with an easy example. So step one, I need to find my antecedent. And for context, I usually like to read the whole thing. So we get American poet Emily Dickinson wrote many of her poems on scraps of paper, but she also took steps to collect these works. From 1858 to 1864, for example, she copied more than 800 of blank into 40 handmade booklets. So just from reading that out loud, I can tell that these works is the original noun that we are replacing. And technically, these works is referring to poems too. Regardless, both of these are plural, so we're going to want them, choice A. All right, so that first one was obviously pretty easy, but now we're dealing with a medium question. And with the medium and hard-based pronoun questions, sometimes you're going to have to focus on, or rather not focus on, certain parts of the sentence. Here, for example, we've got the human brain is primed to recognize faces, so much so that due to perceptual tendency called something, blank will even find faces in clouds. So this is a little bit more complicated because we've got all this information between our antecedent and our pronoun. What can happen is sometimes you'll think, the word right next to the blank space is our antecedent. If you go back, we might think that faces is our antecedent. So you have to be careful by focusing on context and also looking out for things like non-essential information that you can ignore. So like we have this little comma sandwich here. That tells me I could ignore all of this. And then contextually, we get blank will even find faces in clouds, wooden doors, pieces of fruit. The first thing we get is the human brain is primed to recognize faces. So do faces find faces, or does the human brain find faces? The human brain finds faces, right? Human brain is singular, so we want singular it. Our answer is C. All right, moving on to a hard one here. Now, just from looking at the answer choices, we can see that there's something a little bit different going on here. It looks like we might be dealing with possession, because I'm seeing apostrophes. And speaking of which, we're dealing with apostrophes along with pronouns. So this is actually starting to bleed into what I would even consider maybe a separate category of apostrophe use. I've actually got a video on that, so definitely check that out after this if you want more on those types of questions. But let's go ahead and do our strategy. And I'll start from the beginning here just to get context. When they were first discovered in Australia in 1798, duck-billed, beaver-tailed platypuses so defied categorization that one scientist assigned them the name OP. Whenever you've got these scientific words that are way too long, just call them by their initials. Paradoxical bird snout. That's hilarious. But yeah, platypuses are pretty weird looking, huh? The animal which lays eggs but also nurses blank young with milk. Okay, so here it seems pretty clear to me that the antecedent is the animal, right? Nurses young with milk, because it does say the animal singular. So I would want it, right? Now, in this case, we have two different options, and both of them are its, because we're saying it's young. It's young, the young that belong to it. It's young being its babies, basically. Then the question becomes, which one of these its is the its that I want? And the simple rule to remember with there, it's, and whose is that the apostrophe is going to go to the contraction. A contraction being when you combine two words together. So choice D, for example, is the contraction it is. And we do not want to say, but also nurses it is young with milk. That doesn't make sense, right? It's with no apostrophe is actually our possessive it's. So our answer here is C. Now, what we just went over is only a tiny fraction of what I cover in my full English bundle, which is designed to get you a perfect 800. For every strategy, hack, and over 500 original practice questions, use the link in the description.